Could you ship one working app to a stranger right now? Not a snippet, something they could actually run. You've written classes, you've written tests, you've written async code. Most people who know Python still can't say yes. I'm Kai, this is Fun with Learning Technology, and this channel exists for exactly that gap. Tutorials teach you pieces, a lesson on classes, a lesson on testing, a lesson on async, but never how they sit in one project together. You don't need some separate architecture course for this, you already know every piece we're about to combine. By the end, you'll watch one small app grow from a single file into something you can actually hand to someone else. Here's the target, a command line expense tracker. Not a toy, something with real structure, real tests, and a real install path. By the end, typing pip install dot gives you a working command. Before any infrastructure exists, we start with plain objects. Expense holds a description, an amount, and the currency it was spent in. That currency field matters once we add live rates later. Ledger holds a list of expenses and knows how to add one and total them up. Notice both are data classes instead of regular classes. Handwriting, an init, and a repro for something. This simple is boilerplate that hides the actual logic. So the data class decorator generates that for us, and the class body only shows what matters, the fields and the tutorial methods. You change one method in Ledger, nothing crashes. But 3 other places that depended on it are now silently wrong. And without a test, you won't find out until a user does. Manually rechecking Ledger by hand doesn't scale past a few files, so we write pytest test instead. The first test adds one expense and checks the total matches. The second adds 2 and checks they sum correctly. That's the case most people remember. The third is the one people skip, an empty ledger, and it has to total to 0, not crash, which is exactly the kind of edge case that silently breaks when someone changes total later. Say each expense needs a live currency conversion. One request at a time, that's 20 expenses, 20 weights, stacked end to end. With async, those 20 requests go out together and finish in roughly the time of one. Fetch rate is just one coroutine. It awaits a single network call for one currency. Attach rates figures out which currencies actually show up in the ledger. No point fetching the same one twice. Then hands all those coroutines to asyncio.gather, which fires them off together and waits for every result at once instead of one after another. Quick guess before I tell you. If one of those 20 requests fails, does gather crash the whole batch or just skip that one and move on? Drop your guess in the comments. By default, gather raises the first exception it hits and cancels everything else, which surprises a lot of people the first time. One flaky request takes down an otherwise fine batch. The ledger and expense classes sit at the center. Tests wrap around them, catching regressions. The async layer feeds in live rates without blocking anything else. 3 lessons worth of skills. Now, one running system. Right now, this only runs if someone's sitting inside your project folder, typing Python and the right file name. That's not something you hand to another person. They need your exact folder structure and the right command memorized. Real software doesn't work that way. You install it once and it just runs from anywhere under its own name. The project section names the package and lists IRTP as the one real dependency. The script section is the part that actually matters. It maps the command expenses to the main function inside expenses.cli. That's the entry point. And it's why typing expenses in any terminal finds your code instead of you running a script by path. The build system section just tells pip which tool builds the package. That part's boilerplate. Setup tools handles it. Pip install dot reads the entry point we defined in pyproject.toml and writes an actual expenses executable into your environment's bin folder. So it's just a command now, not a script you remember the path to. One thing that trips people up here, that entry point is baked in at install time. Rename the function or the command in pyproject.toml after this, and expenses keeps running the old version until you pip install again. Because pip isn't watching your source. It already wrote the wrapper. Adding 2 expenses and asking for the total gives $16.50 back, and underneath that one line is everything we built, the ledger class doing the math, the test that would have caught it if that math broke, and the async layer ready to pull in live rates the moment you ask for another currency. Classes gave it structure, tests gave it a safety net, async gave it speed, packaging gave it to the world. That's not 4 lessons, that's how real software actually gets made. If this made sense, drop a like. That's genuinely how I know what's working.